For centuries, humanity did not know it was being observed, not by telescopes or probes, but by an ancient intelligence that saw war as a perfect equation. The Aurelian Dominion, as they called themselves, had catalogued thousands of civilizations and reduced their conflicts to precise mathematical patterns, where every battle had a probability, every decision a prediction, every victory an inevitable calculation, and when they finally turned their attention to Earth, they believed they had found just another variable in their system. A primitive species with violent tendencies, yet completely understandable, completely predictable, completely defeatable. And so, when they descended upon the planet, they did not come with fury or arrogance, but with the cold certainty of those who already know the outcome of the equation, initiating an invasion as silent as it was perfect, shutting down satellites, collapsing power grids, fragmenting global communications within minutes until the world was engulfed in an unsettling darkness, an artificial night, where cities stopped shining and humanity was cut off from itself, and the Dominion waited for the standard reaction, panic, disorder, gradual surrender, because that is how it had always happened, because that is what their models dictated. But what happened on Earth did not fit any formula, because instead of collapsing, humans began to move, not as a unified entity, but as millions of independent decisions, chaotic, contradictory, yet strangely effective. And within hours, pockets of resistance emerged in unlikely places, forgotten neighborhoods, mechanical workshops, abandoned stations, where civilians without formal training transformed ordinary tools into improvised weapons, where logic was replaced by necessity, and necessity by determination, and when the first Aurelian reconnaissance units descended to evaluate the response, expecting to encounter organized forces or uncontrolled crowds, they found something entirely different, a distributed, unpredictable intelligence, where every human acted as an independent node capable of adapting in real time, attacking from illogical angles, sacrificing resources without apparent calculation, using the environment as an extension of their will, and in that first encounter, brief but devastating, the Aurelian algorithms failed for the first time in their history, unable to process an enemy that did not follow patterns, unable to anticipate decisions born not from logic, but from urgency, and even so, trusting in their superiority, the Dominion escalated the conflict, deploying greater forces, more complex control systems, weaponry designed to neutralize any known variable, but each new measure only fueled humanity's ability to adapt, because where the Aurelians saw systems, humans saw opportunities. Where they imposed order, humans introduced chaos, and little by little the battlefield ceased to be a physical space and became a mutable concept, a network of interconnected actions where every mistake was a lesson and every defeat a step toward a more dangerous strategy. And then the unthinkable happened. Humans began to learn alien technology not through full understanding, but through partial experimentation, exploiting minor flaws, altering frequencies, repurposing systems in ways they were never designed for, turning technological perfection into a weakness. And while the Dominion attempted to recalibrate its models, humanity had already changed the rules of the game, transforming war into something that could not be simulated, something that could not be contained, something that could not be won through calculation. And it was at that moment that the invasion ceased to be an operation and became a problem with no solution. As the days passed, the conflict expanded far beyond what had been expected, not because the Dominion had planned it, but because humanity pushed the limits of the confrontation into unpredictable directions, decentralizing its resistance into independent cells that evolved faster than any system could track, creating a kind of war ecosystem where every action generated new responses, where the war no longer followed a line but branched out like a living organism, and for the first time, the Aurelians began to react instead of act, trapped in a cycle of delayed adaptation against an enemy that did not require central coordination to be effective, and the turning point came when humans stopped trying to match alien strength and instead began to undermine it from within, attacking supply lines, interfering with energy flows, manipulating communication delays, and using the Dominion's own structure against it, culminating in an event that would be recorded in their archives as the collapse of predictability, when a series of seemingly disconnected actions converged into a devastating outcome, the neutralization of a command ship in orbit, not through a direct attack, but through a chain of sabotage, intrusions, and environmental disruptions that no model had foreseen. And in that instant, the Dominion understood a truth that none of its equations could contain, that humanity did not need to be superior to win, it only needed to be impossible to predict. And from that moment, everything changed. Entire doctrines were discarded, protocols abandoned, strategies rewritten in real time. But every attempt at adaptation came too late, because humans did not wait, did not pause, did not follow a fixed rhythm. They moved forward driven by something the Dominion could not quantify, the will to survive at any cost, and so what began as a calculated invasion became an inevitable retreat, not a defeat in the traditional sense, but a strategic disengagement from a conflict that had become incomprehensible. And as the Aurelian ships withdrew from Earth, leaving behind a planet scarred, but unbroken in spirit, they transmitted a message to the rest of the galaxy, not as a warning, but as a correction, a necessary adjustment in the understanding of war, because what they had faced was not simply another species, but an anomaly in the system, a variable that could not be solved, and in that message, encoded in every known language, a simple and final conclusion was established: humans do not fight fair because they have never believed they could afford to lose, and in that absolute refusal to accept defeat lies their true strength, a strength not measured in power or technology, but in the infinite capacity to change, adapt, and turn any situation, no matter how impossible it may seem, into an opportunity to win.